Hello and welcome to the D2C podcast. I'm Eric Dyck. Today I'm catching up with my old friend Nick Shackelford, founder of Structured, and his new brand BREZ, which is a low-dose cannabis beverage that he's been building in public on D2C Twitter with explosive and inspiring results, breaking the $1 million mark in just their first 8 months of business. Today's talk is a crash course on cannabis, restricted categories on meta ads, the power of building a premium brand, and Nick's insights on the evolution of affiliate marketing for CPG. Join me and the Drake of DTC as we talk THC, CPG, and the overhyped death of UGC. Yeah, you know me. On with the show.
We went pre-order, and this is actually probably the coolest thing that we did. We did not turn off ads during pre-order, which a lot of people do. The tactic was you get $5 off if you reserve your order in these next 3 allotments. And so it was a 3 days in which we were shipping. You could select one of the days. Our average conversion rate sits with us about 6%. We were averaging 4 to 5% conversion rate on pre-order the last couple months with product not even shipping. We were able to continue to keep spending, continue to scale with profitable ad spend, not having to fulfill the product, etc., all the way through until now where we're able to actually fulfill it. And so that was all based on, guys, how do we communicate pre-order online? And a guy on Twitter just like, change this. We're going to owe him millions and millions of dollars worth of thanks.
If you haven't yet used Motion, the creative analytics platform used by top e-com and D2C brands like Fiore, True Classic, The Farmer's Dog, Hexclad, and hundreds more to ship winning ads, here's why you should try it out. Everyone knows that the right creative is the #1 lever for success with paid ads. That's how you make money. But consistently shipping new winning creative, you're gonna need your media buyers and your creative teams on the same page. Right now, you're probably spending hours tiring away going back and forth between Google Sheets and your ad platforms and tools, and then spending even more time plugging it all into different decks for the rest of your team. In a perfect world, you could have an elegant way to combine visual assets and performance data, so media buyers can save time and creative teams can get the details they need to make great ads all in one place. And that's where Motion comes in. In seconds, you can build powerful visual reports using data from your ad accounts. You can monitor your performance metrics and see your visual assets in the same platform. No need to go back and forth across multiple apps. You'll finally have media buyers and creative teams working together to create and scale your next big winner. If you're ready to learn how the best D2C and e-commerce brands use Motion to ship winning Meta, TikTok, and YouTube ads, book a demo today or start a free trial at motionapp.com/DTC. Even better, Motion offers a monthly subscription plan so you can dodge those annoying annual contracts. Get 50% off your first month when you use the link motionapp.com/DTC on sign up. Nick, welcome to the D2C podcast. This has been a long time coming. We've known each other for years and years and years. We've been part of this sort of like e-commerce come up, the way it's kind of moved over from performance marketing. We've sort of been there kind of since the beginning. Great to see you again, man.
Dude, it's funny because when we were talking earlier, you're like, I know we haven't had a deep talk in a long time, but it feels like I know what you're doing and going through, and I feel the very same. And I think this is why I think this in our industry, those who take giving updates or showing what they're doing on a consistent basis and on a thorough basis, you don't feel disconnected with each other. And like you and I were sharing stages in Vegas and Barcelona and Bangkok and Dubai, and it was like it was very real. Like we had to have a lot of real experiences together, and it hasn't really stopped. We've just kind of gone all online.
It's been fantastic. Well, catch us up on the Shack stack. Like you're telling me a little bit about it. Tell me a little bit about what you have on your plate right now, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, no, I'll start personally. So I'm expecting my very first child. So it's kind of, I'm going to go into a different realm of like entrepreneur, business owner, dad, and that's something I'm very excited about. So any listeners out there that are fresh dads or about to become a dad or have been doing it, I please hit me up. I'm Nick Shackelford everywhere on the socials because I need the tips, man. Because what it's been up until this point has been business after business, and so I stayed in the performance marketing world, and up until recently where we launched the brand. So I'll go from back to front real quick. So we've been on the paid media side for a while, and for the past 4 years, we've been acquiring other shops. So we are a Facebook and TikTok group. Then we bought an email team. So now we are acquisition and retention, and that's with our good friend Chase Diamond. So he's obviously a legend. One of my neighbors actually over here in California, so very close to me.
Nice.
And then we just kept building a paid media team. And then I got the opportunity to go into a space that means a lot to me, is cannabis, THC, what we call conscious compounds. So anything that kind of alters the state. And we were talking a little bit about it before, like I am a fidget spinner guy. I'm the fidgetly dude. And so constantly playing with something is always in my head. And I wasn't really willing to just be like ADD pills and Adderall and Concerta are the answer. And so I was dabbling with cannabis and eventually dabbling with mushrooms and figuring out like what is the perfect dosage to be a high performer and also keep creative and also be able to have an intentional conversation. All three of those things usually lead to, for me, like who's I kind of go introvert, extrovert on many extremes. But when you're like us that have to keep conversations going consistently, I found myself in a consumption mode that wasn't needed to be on an edible basis. And look, you and I all know you've had that one edible that you've taken and you're just like,
this isn't weed.
No.
This is something else. This is a trip to a magical fairyland. Yeah, that happened to me in San Jose one time when I ended up sleeping outside. I won't get into it, but it was slept rough that night.
Well, and the funny thing is, like, you're not alone. Like a lot of people that have or dabble in that space, like everyone's had an edible, and everyone in that same sentence, everyone has had a terrible edible experience. And so that was like this area that I wanted to understand. So we launched we've had an agency called We Are Lucid that just does THC, CBD, conscious compounds, and the founder Aaron, who's like, look, we've been helping all these brands. Like, look, I'm gonna say Cheech and Chong. You remember these guys, Cheech and Chong? That's one of the biggest brands that we have, and you can only imagine that these guys are trying to get you on another level. Whereas I was like, look, not everybody needs to be on that level. We can be a little bit more mellow. So we launched BREZes on 420 very appropriately of this year. And we should break the million mark by the end of this month. And the only way we're limited by that is because, look, we're paid media guys and we're growth guys. The thing that we don't know is inventory management, ingredient negotiations, manufacturing of homegrown goods. And so that's the stuff that we're diving into now that is a lot different for a lot of us on the paid side. Because look, usually we're just hitting gas and we're like, hey, you have inventory, cool, I'm going to sell that shit. And we are now learning that you can't just do that. You have to be, especially with a heavy drink, dude. It's a 12 ounce or a 7.5 ounce, which is very heavy, and we're in a regulated space. So it's been a lot of learning, bro.
It's learning on all sides. And it's so funny talking about us being intertwined. Like I was working with Aaron in the job that I had like in between iStack and what I'm doing now, where I was literally building a newsletter for boomers. I was like, it taught me how to do a newsletter, which is great. It ended up didn't being a super successful product, but I was trying to figure out how do I market this restricted product in an environment where, Google's like, or Facebook, all these different platforms are cracking down on specific use of language. And Aaron stood out. He was a pioneer even back then on just like how to work with these platforms, how to offer products that are workable, and then basically like back end the products that aren't. Talk to me a little bit about that environment on the acquisition side.
It's funny you brought that up because so firsthand how straight and narrow and by the book Aaron is. And that radiates through how the team is set up, that radiates through the content, that radiates through the non-shadiness. Because you and I both know if we're in this space, and I'm actually sharing about this. This is the first time I get to share this on here with you, which is cool. And I'm going to share this again in Bangkok, maybe a different version, just because I know if I share this in front of all the affiliates, we're going to see a bunch of offers that just pop up ridiculously. But the 100%. The straightforwardness about it is eventually you are going to run into trouble. Like that's even with us with Facebook help, even with us having all the brands and the spend we have, we still get compliant issues because look, dude, we're marketers. Our job is we have to push it a little bit, but the bare minimum that we have to have is we like to say, you have to bury the buy 2 clicks in. Meaning, if I'm going to showcase, we can talk about hemp, and we got very fortunate when COVID hit. Facebook and these platforms didn't really need our money. Like people were still spending over time. Facebook specifically and X, formerly known as Twitter, is very forward on what they want. They want our spend. They want cannabis. They want THC. So much so that Stizzy, one of the largest vape and cannabis teams, are spending a boatload of money on X specifically because they're like, come on, we want your money. But for us on the compliance side, you can run anything that's talking about hemp. You can have a landing page where as soon as they click and they get there and they see hemp, you can have that. You obviously can't showcase cannabis. you can show the flower, but you can't show cannabis. And then if you get 2 clicks in where it's a lot more educationally focused, you can sell right there on the landing page hemp infused THC. And there's a reason why that's very specific, because if you look at the cannabis flower itself, and I've learned this over time of knowing how to actually advertise this, you have hemp and then you have cannabis. And a law that was passed actually by the one, the only Trump, allowed this to call the 2018 Farm Bill Act, which allows for 0.3% of hemp derived THC to be legal to be sold by weight. So it is on a federal level compliant for us to sell this. And now there's been a lot of uncomfortability recently around the Farm Bill, which is supposed to be, it gets revisited every couple of years, and it was coming up for revisitation most recently. It actually got kicked down into next year. So there could be a couple more changes where they could go, you know what, you can't sell this. You have to sell a different type of cannabinoid. And we go, okay, well, let's go back to the ingredient list and see what we can fix around it. But it is federally legal, and each state has kind of their own thing. And right now, I would say New York has probably been the most, restricted to what you can and can't do. New Jersey, love it. New York, not having it. So it's been a very interesting how to sell D2C cannabis essentially to your door. And look, people were like, whoa, you guys are already scaling to that level. You guys are at that size. Dude, it's drugs. We're selling drugs. Who's not buying this?
It's restricted industries. Mini Katana, you better be listening here. You know, all these different products that you can't quite do on the front end. We used to talk a lot about hims and hers and selling, you know, ED medication or ED pills. Essentially, they weren't able to do that, but they front load the hair loss, and then you 2 clicks in, you get to the ED, and it's like it's hard to know how to do that. So having a guy like Aaron on board who's done it for so long and has figured out all the boundaries must have been a huge factor in you deciding to do this style of business.
For one, we saw 2 things. One, we saw the market of alcohol consumption dropping the younger the generations go. We're seeing the dropping consumption of nicotine usage in terms of smoke consumption, and we're seeing the rise of vape. We're seeing the rise of alternative mocktails. Like there's like this trend of things happening, and we're like, okay, if people aren't
California
looking
sober, everyone's talking about California sober.
Yeah, sober curious. All these people are like, these different terms are coming out. We're California based, but it's a real trend, and there's a real reason for people looking at it. It kind of followed along on like the ice bath sauna trend, where these people are going like, can I get a buzz? Can I get on a level, but not ruin and fuck up my morning? That's the biggest thing. That's the trend that we're seeing, is like, not only can I drink this on the golf course, but then my wife can drink this when she's with her girls, or they can have a consumption, but they don't have to ruin or go through 3 bottles of wine. And that's why I think this is going to win, because of this move towards low dose THC in an easy form consumption. And we call ourselves BREZ because it stands for breathe easy, because we don't want to smoke. You don't want to be coughing everywhere.
You can't, as you said, you can't cheers a toke. You shouldn't be cheersing your joints outside. You need something when all your friends are at the bar or whatever, because you want to get on the same vibe. You don't always want to feel the same way the next day, but you want to get on the same vibe, and a drink like this will allow that.
No, it really can. The funny thing about this is, like, we have a couple of people that are on subscription. So we do, I'll show you. Actually, I told you I'd show you, so I'll show you.
Yeah, let's see it.
Because we're in the middle of like debating if we're going to run Black Friday, because like when we're recording this before Black Friday.
Black Friday Eve. I just was going over your post, so I definitely want to revisit that actually on this talk and get some of the hot takes on there, because I think there's some good stuff.
So we're fine sharing this, because this is we're public about this. We're pushing forward on it. So we launched on 420, and so we launched on 420, 11,000 up, doubled into 30. Inventory issues into 17, back to 33, 76, 186, 250, and then this month where we're sitting at kind of like right, let's say like let's go month to date. So we're in an okay position right now. I think we can beat what we did last month. And so this is Aaron. This is Aaron's brain. This is Aaron understanding what we need to do. This is us also leveraging a lot of our partnerships. And this is why I've been so public with what we're doing, because we have guys that come out, and I won't name drop all the apps and tools that we use, but essentially when you're able to build this audience or this size of people, they're going like, dude, I believe in the product you're selling. I want to be a part of this. we get the best tech teams with the best support, and we're like getting great apps and stuff. And so they've been coming to me and Aaron and going like, we like the product. How do we help it? And we're getting like the best of whether it's subscription, whether it's post-purchase upsell, whether it's good CRO. It's been really, really cool to see this happen.
To see that level of attraction in a CPG brand. I've talked with so many like upstart CPG brands, and for so many people, it's like they think of it like a long game where they may or may not be profitable until year 2 when they can order enough to have the order costs come down to have the individual pieces. Yes. But that's not how you guys have thought. You're a true performance marketer at heart. Describe your thought process in terms of like profitability with the brand.
So Aaron and I got off this call today. So right now we went pre-order, and this is actually probably the coolest thing that we did that was built in public. We did not turn off ads during pre-order, which a lot of people do, or they lower things down, or they just leave it no inventory. And I'll actually have to share this with you after because it's not on the site because we're no longer on pre-order. But essentially what we did is we did reserve your order, and we had a build on the product page that was, and this is the tactic, then I'll talk about the thought process. The tactic was, you get $5 off if you reserve your order in these next 3 allotments. And so it was 3 days in which we were shipping. You can select one of the days. And so our average conversion rate sits with us about 6%. We were averaging 4 to 5% conversion rate on pre-order the last couple months with product not even shipping. So like we were able to continue to keep spending, continue to scale with profitable ad spend, not considering like having to fulfill the product, etc., all the way through until now where we're able to actually fulfill it. And so that was all based on, guys, how do we communicate pre-order online? And a guy on Twitter just like changed this, and we're going to owe him millions of dollars worth of thanks because of just one literal tweet, which I'll share after this. So that blew my mind. This is why I'll never not share in public because of the benefits I've had. So we've bootstrapped all of this between Aaron, between myself, and because we're able to actually spend accordingly. Right now, we are in a profitable state. I can't share what it is, but it's not tremendous, but we are able to fund ourselves, not having to get any lines of credit, not having to get any loans, but we're in a good spot to where if we can sell the inventory we currently have, which should last us until Feb, we will be able to pay everything back and then some.
Amazing. This is all D2C too. I think a lot of people go into CPG with the idea of like, okay, start in small retail clusters, build D2C kind of on the side. You're going straight D2C. Talk about that.
It was something that I've wanted to go distribution first. Aaron felt strongly otherwise because you got to realize our outlets. We can't go the traditional Trader Joe's, big box retail, Walmart, Targets, because we do have that element of CBD and THC. So we can't get into the market yet. We'd have to go pot shops, head shops. And there's an association, like there's nothing against it, but there's an association when we're being considered on the shelves across the other cannabis drinks. And now it's like, oh, we're a weed drink. And that's been something we're trying to combat against. So if you look at our branding, our style, our aesthetic, it is a very Equinox, higher end vibe and aesthetic, and that's what we are expensive. Like we're, for a 6-pack of a 7.5 ounce, we're in that $40 to $50 range, where if you get the 12-pack, we're looking at the 60 to 75 depending on shipping. And so we have to command that. And right now, the cool thing about this tactic is like we learned this from a couple of the other guys that are selling into Walmart. If we can get a good amount of D2C traction in these more densely populated metropolitan areas, then we'll be able to find like a unique beverage shop or a unique cocktail shop that we can do. Hey, you can go get it here. And there's apps called Aisle. There's an app and there's a couple other ones where it can incentivize a consumer to go buy it in person, upload the receipt to us, and then we can compensate them digitally or pay them back digitally that way. So that way we can kind of like incentivize foot traffic and sell through on the shelves that we do choose to be in.
I love that. And I love the idea. Like you mentioned Cheech and Chong earlier. This is not a Cheech and Chong product. This is, this is for people that are looking to ascend, not necessarily like, smoke their brains out. So what are your retail choices? And you're mentioning not head choices. What are the kind of places you want this associated with?
So this will be a little bit more beneficial when we launch a Lion's Mane only option. And this option will be the Trader Joe's. That will be the Whole Foods. That will be the Erewhons. That's the area where we can get something that, they don't want to take the risk on, and we understand that. So a mainstream, once we eliminate the THC, even if we keep the CBD in there, that's still a little bit more acceptable in these places. But where we are able to sell, like there's 2 shops in South Florida that sell a variety of THC cocktails. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it is in a South Florida area. And it's, believe it or not, there's a state, Minnesota, that has a lot of these that, because of the regulations and laws, there's a ton of our competitors on shelves in just regular stores in the state. It's kind of weird.
That's wild. So this has been all D2C meta ads. This is just slinging meta ads like classic. Can you show us a little bit of some of the creatives that have been working?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually, I can. Let me pull this up.
We ad libraried that before. If you're listening to this, you can go find this on YouTube and subscribe there as well. We just going to get to see Nick walk us through some of his top creatives.
It'd be cool. I'll be able to share you with a lot of the other brands that we're able to be in it. And so I'm using the guys over there at Foreplay. So I'll be able to show you the variety of this. So look, this is a Cheech and Chong. This is from the Cheech and Chong stuff. And you can tell, look, you said Cruise Chews were mellow. Yeah, but you took 8. So it's a very mean, that's their aesthetic, right? Funny. When I see them buying gas station gummies, very funny. Like, this is the approach and the attitude towards it. Whereas when you fly towards maybe like a Flyers cocktail, like sign up to save on your first order. So it's a very, it's an aesthetically pleasing, it looks like a normal alcoholic brand. If I were to go down towards Rose, see like Wild, 0% alcohol, 100% chill. That's their aesthetic, very nature-esque and flowy. All the way down to Off Field, this is a brand I've always loved these guys. They're like the world's first microdose runner's high. So they're playing on the running and high. So they're dosing their drinks, and they're dosing their like enhanced hydration packets. The runner's high, it's closer than you think. So I appreciate the way that they're going about this. And then if we were to go to some of our BREZes-esque ads,
it's just that classic mix of UGC comparison stuff, and it's that animation. Your animation branding is so tight.
Even Aaron, this is one of our better ones where
he
breaks down.
I feel like that is the main question I've been getting. And guys, I heard it described today as a light breeze. One can is chill. You feel it in about 5 to 10 minutes. You get this feeling of relaxation, clarity, a little bit of stimulant, some excitement, some euphoria.
And so that's a 2-minute long video, because the biggest issue with this is, I've had a gummy. I've had this before. I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to get too effed up. And so he is just talking down that limiting belief overall. And so that's one of our higher performing ones.
Even and it's that idea that you feel it. We talked about that. Just so few products people actually feel. If it's something, they'll taste it. Maybe it tastes good. But so many things that people do for their health, they have to see like long time benefits to even feel anything. Whereas a product like this, you're going to feel something right away.
It's why coffee is never going to leave us. It's why, unfortunately, like the painkillers and all these other things, where it's like I literally feel something. And it's something that we always try. That's why pre-workouts and supplements are like such a big feeling. That's why you have the feeling when you feel like your skin's just going to itch off, or your eyebrows are going to itch off on pre-workout. Because you're like, oh, I definitely feel it. I got to feel stronger. And so the only way we can get that with our drink without having to put people on the floor is playing with the dosage. And so that's actually why we had to go from the small can you see behind me to the 12-ounce can, because guys are going like, dude, I can't keep drinking 6-packs. Like, make me a bigger one. I'm like, all right.
What are your plans? Let's get into it a little bit. Like, what are your plans on Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Are you going to discount or not?
Right now, and a lot of brands probably deal with this too, and since we're newer on the planning and the inventory side, we were out of stock until literally last week. So basically, we had pre-orders for everybody that's been subscribed to us. We do about $155,000 in subscriber revenue since launch. So we cannot hurt the subscriber base, the core base. So we were debating. I was like, dude, we can't run an acquisition offer that is greater than that of what we would have given to our subscribers that didn't refund us, charge us back, and they stuck with us. And so we basically have been saying, we're going to give $10 into their account, because we use the various apps, loyalty-esque programs, and we'll put it into a little bit of like, hey, you have $10 into your account, use it towards a current subscription, or use it towards a future subscription. If you want to add another product, if you just want to buy it yourself and get 2-packs to catch up, do that. So we're kind of taking a very defensive strategy, even though Aaron swears on his life. He's like, dude, I got to run an acquisition play. And so he's probably going to update the banner to be like 10% or $10 off or $10 credit for your first subscription purchase, or a $5 on non-subscription purchase. So that way the offer isn't better than what our loyal subscribers would have had. And it's unfortunate. Like I wish we could run a sexy offer to something, because that's the place that we've lived for so long, but it would be very irresponsible for the people that stood by us.
I think so. And you're building for the long term here, and you are a premium product as well, right? So you don't want to be, you don't want to be thought of as someone, you got to wait for the 40% off discount to make your purchase. You want to build this into your lifestyle because you're worth it.
Yeah. I try to tell myself that. I tell my wife that all the time. I was like, look, I'm not a discount guy. I'm a high class over here.
Although we both know if it's good discount, we're probably both in there as well.
Oh my God, dude. There's some pretty good discounts out there right now. And I was like, I'm a golf guy now. I need some new balls.
So speaking of greens, grass is always greener when it comes to being on the brand or the agency side. I know you've straddled that line before, but now being like you've got your full on agencies, you've got your full on brand. Talk to me about the difference between the brand life and the agency life.
The brand life is moving much slower than I thought it would. Most likely because I'm not on the inventory side. So I know we've had a lot of movements on the inventory specifically, but because I still stay in growth and partnerships and pretty much paid media, you can only spend so much. Whereas like on the agency, I think if you have the ability to be very good at growth or very good at retention, and you have the ability to do that for many other people, and you already have the team to do so, you should find an equity deal or a longer play to have ownership in a brand. Because one, it doesn't move as fast as you think it does. And for guys that like speed or like to see growth quicker than most, agency, you get to play with a lot of different fields and see a lot of different things. So I believe I will always be in the agency side. Plus the team is pretty similar, right? Like the team that needs to execute for paid media, you have a creative, you have your media buyers, you have your admin that kind of supports it. That same team is the same team that could run the brand outside of these like maybe extracurricular support persons, which we're doing right now. Like on the Lucid side that runs a lot of the ads on BREZ, we don't have a full email person, but that's fine because we'll just hire a consultant, get the flows updated, and go execute. I think that's a strategy that a lot of brands don't do. They don't tap an audience or tap their network just to get spot checks. You don't need to have them full time. Get it set up, get someone to just double check it for you, and then just keep scaling.
Great advice. I'm curious. So you mentioned Aisle, which I think is a really great shout out as a tool that people in the CPG space could check out for loyalty. What's another part of your tool stack that you're standing heavily these days that you can't live without?
So we have two of them that I'll always shout out to. Stay.ai, which is our retention program and the ability to make sure that the customer portal is a lot more flexible to like not churn. So they'll be like, hey, I don't want to get a subscription, but don't get me off subscription. Just skip the next one, or I can send a subscription elsewhere. That's huge. That's been really big for us, especially since we've been on pre-order. And then after sell. I've always been a big post-purchase guy, but I didn't understand how it was going to work with a subscription first single low SKU store. And the team has been amazing for me. For them to see like, hey, look, this is not going to impact the subscription rate, but it's also going to increase your initial first purchase AOV. That I didn't believe was going to happen at all for us, and it really did. Now we had a couple of tracking issues, but we were able to work with them to get through it. But between stay and after sell, those are probably the two that's really made what we have work well.
We also talked about Triple Whale a little bit, just because you've been working with them. You've got today, as we mentioned, is the eve of Black Friday. So most of what you can do has been done by most teams. But what's your outlook on this year's holiday season in Q4 based on some of this data that you were talking about?
Dude, it's super early. So the Triple Whale team has been very kind to share a lot of this information. Right now, it is more sales have been live this year earlier than any year, 2022, 2021, and 2020. So this is kind of shocking. I had a feeling that this was happening, but they confirmed it was about 20 to 30% increase of offers being live before Black Friday. Now they'll probably release another update of like how deep or how much change the offers were, but conversion rate across all of their stores is also up 15 to 20%. And their final change, which was interesting to me, AOV is down. So I don't know what happened or why that's happening, or maybe people are spending less. I'm hoping that their update comes a little bit after this, but it's been very interesting for us to see, because we do two things. What we try to discount to increase conversion rate, but we also try to add more products in there, which also means that I should be spending more. So it's been a very weird learning across the board from the triple team.
Interesting. With BREZ, how you're saying it's not happening as quick as you'd like it. I think that's definitely because of your sort of performance marketing mindset. It's because it's happening pretty quick. I think in terms of a lot of brands, getting traction the way you've been able to. What do you see? What are your goals in 2024 with it?
So if we can end the year, if we can end the year about 1 million, which we're sitting at about 800-ish. Let me just go year to date real quick, so I'm not speaking on my butt. Yeah, 840. So 840 as of a little bit ago. If we can end this year at about 1 million and change, there's no reason why, and we get the inventory and we have multiple SKUs set up, I think next year we can hit right between that 5 to 8 million range. And if we're at that state, if we're at that state and Eric, and not doing retail or not do anything heavy, this thing should be on the radar of a lot of the major. And this is the thing that's really interesting to us is, does a Pepsi come in? Does a Budweiser come in? Does a Coca-Cola?
Kim Kardashian's coming in. I'm pretty sure Kim Kardashian wants to work these days.
I mean, if she's taking Truff and that's a sexy space in the hot sauce space, like, why wouldn't she play in this space where it is coming? Now, again, it plays on the moral outlook on some of these brands that they can look aside and be like, this is a viable business area. And it's something that we're always going to come across, especially if we dabbled in wanting to do like a little bit friends and family before we realize that, hey, it's working itself. I know once we go to market, or at least start asking for an investment, it's going to be a major conversation of like, will regulators come in? Will this get knocked down or stopped? First off, the industry of cannabis as a whole views low-dosed, non-straight cannabis as its own. Hemp and cannabis are completely different industries. Although we have to play with the cannabis rules, it isn't the same industry. And so a lot of the bigger brands, a lot of the bigger cannabis, I guess like legacy brands, for the lack of a better phrase, they're realizing we have to be here. We have to be playing the space, because this is actually a viable business. Because a lot of these guys, they can't go digital growth. They have to go retail, road shows. They have to do all these other things that we know as soon as a consumer tries it and our subscription rate proves this, they're not going to leave this because they can't get this elsewhere. So I do believe this space is going to get crowded very, very fast. But if they don't understand the things that Aaron and our squad gets, you're not going to keep it alive.
Kim Kardashian, Ryan Reynolds also. This sounds like a real acqui-hire potential to bring this in-house. So it's funny, we've seen a few cracks in the celebrity plan to buy liquor companies. I feel like the getting was good a little bit before when Clooney exited hundreds of $1 millions, but now is the time for marketing celebrity-led THC brands. I think now is the time.
I mean, even if you think about The Rock, like Rock did tequila and Rock has his Zoa, right? So he has energy drink and he has the alcohol space. It makes no sense for them to not. We know that they're going to sniff around. If we can show really, really good numbers, I guarantee you we're going to have a couple of these conversations with these guys. And they're going to be like, what is this industry? Because their approach, right? They do want the larger Budweisers or the Coca-Colas or the PepsiCos. They want them to see it. But if the federal rules, regulations does not allow for that to happen, it might just be them by themselves, some really, really large VCs or PE firms coming and be like, we're just going to add it to our portfolio.
Amazing.
Could be cool.
Got any?
Could that be wild?
Yeah, it would be, but manifest it, man. There's no reason that you can't. You got the skills, you got the team. I think the brand is built for growth. Like, I think it's got that potential to be like something that really stands apart on the shelf. So man, I'm on board. I just can't wait for, we gotta start doing quarterly updates on it though. You gotta come on the pod quarterly. Right now though, I gotta ask you, if we were to give you a $50,000 grant, would you be putting that into Aaron's funnels just to see the most return, or would you be is there anything else incremental that you'd be focused on, do you think, for 2024 with that?
2024, if I took the 50,000, I'd go 3 directions. One, we need to do affiliate publications, and we need to do I wouldn't go macro influencers, but we go micro influencers in the cannabis space. So we do have to dabble and see how hardcore can we get because we don't want the hardcore potheads, but we want to know, like, can we play in that space? Because they are loyal. They do spend the money. So I think we would need to build out the affiliate program, have to go into the SEO reach, but we'd have to keep it digital. There's no way we would spend it on kind of go like door to door old school sales. Even though if we did have some old school liquor guy or liquor consultant that would come in and be like, hey, I got some doors I could open for you, that would be worth the dollars to spend too. But if anything, heavy affiliate, heavy publication, and heavy influencer play. You'll see a lot of that in Q1, Q2 from us.
Amazing. Well, you got to follow Shaq online. If you're not already, I'm sure a lot of our audience already follows you, but you're always entertaining on Twitter. Any hot takes you have these days kicking around about the D2C space?
Actually, yeah, I'll die on this hill. I think UGC is completely dead. I think it's fucking bullshit. I don't think any UGC ever converts anymore. I think it's going to be the time of heavy production and high production content coming out. And I'm way willing to die on that hill.
I love it. I would say that from what I see, it's like UGC as like like the form, like storytelling is never going to die. If you can be a good storyteller and a good creator, I don't necessarily think the difference is polish versus not. I think we're calling it humanized creative or lo-fi creative. I think if you're a good storyteller, it can still work. Lo-fi is great, right? Just think of the lo-fi hip hop beats that we're all listening to while we work. Good. But it's like, it's storytelling matters. And if you can still tell a story to camera, there's still room for UGC, but it's that out of the can UGC that just people are banner blind to, right? Like we've been in this industry long enough to know that there's whole trends of things that people go banner blind to. And so it's possible. It's good also to be bombastic.
I also think it's just like marketers just destroy everything. Like we just grind it so fast, so hard, so quick. And so I think we need some fresh approaches to what user generated content actually is. And once that happens, I'll be ready to support it again.
Nice. Oh, that's great. Great hot take to end things there. Follow Shaq online. Let's try some BREZ. As soon as it's available in Canada, I'm going to be trying. Otherwise, I think hopefully we can collaborate this year. I know you got a lot of events. I know you put a lot. Just finish off by talking just a little bit about the conscious effort you've put into building the Nick Shackelford brand over the years, because it's been fun to watch.
I appreciate this, dude. Well, the reason why this has happened is because when I was playing soccer professionally, the locker room was the coolest thing about being on the team. Games were awesome, playing was awesome, but the locker room where like you spent hours and hours was really, really cool. So I've always been trying to build my own locker room everywhere I go. And so for the direct to consumer space, that was Geek Out or will be Geek Out consistently, or the Sendlane events or the Grow events. And I really think it's important if you can find other people that are doing what you're doing. And it needs to be somewhat exclusive. Like there has to be pay to play. There has to be a level that you've achieved. Like there has to be a reason why you're in that room, just to make sure that the conversations and connections are congruent. Like there's nothing against having people that are just starting or people further ahead, but it's hard to find middle ground that you can be beneficial for each other. And I just think out of respect for everyone's time and out of respect for what everyone's doing, I think there's an exclusivity factor, whether it's invite or cash or what have you. So a lot of these things I think are important, but for our space, because it's all done so digitally and not face-to-face, the emphasis on being in person just kind of ties it back to realize like, hey, there's some real people in this stuff. And you and I both know like the magic in an in-person event or that hug, that face-to-face, it's so good, dude. Yeah. It is a kismet moment. So
I got addicted to it, honestly. Those iStack events, like back in the day, like just that was my first sign. Like you just get all these people together that are on the same wavelength, and it's just magic. It's magic for across every spectrum, like all the fun, your cultural ideas, your philosophical ideas, business ideas. It's just been a wild ride. So again, thanks, Nick. Thanks for coming on. Great to connect again, brother.
Absolutely, dude. I remember we had a very good event in Las Vegas. I remember me, you, Tim Bird backstage. Like
all-time great one.
That was a great one, brother. I appreciate you again.
Where can people catch you in person if they want to in the coming months?
I will be at Bangkok. I'll do Affiliate World Bangkok in about a week or two, in about 2 weeks. And then I actually get to do one of the major stages I've been waiting over 10 years for. Trafficking Conversion will be in Vegas this year in January, February. So very happy there. And then Agency Founders in Atlanta, which will be in the back half of January. So we have some affiliate events, we have some pure marketing events, and we have some agency stuff. I'm all over the board.
Beautiful. Thanks again, Nick, and congratulations on your life updates as well. You're going to be a sick dad. That beard is going to be a sick dad.
I appreciate you, bro. Thanks for the energy. I'll see you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can do that right now at directtoconsumer.co. I'm Eric Dyck, and this has been the D2C Podcast. We'll see you next time.